All right, welcome to the inaugural first episode of the Peacefully Ambitious CEO podcast. My name is Drasko, and I will be your host through this whole little adventure through my corner of the internet. So basically, this whole idea of the Peacefully Ambitious CEO, this whole podcast, this whole movement was really bred out of the work that I do in my flagship program, which is the Up-Level Mind program. And also from what I've done with my other podcast, which is the Up-Level Mind podcast, where basically I just do coaching calls with entrepreneurs like yourself. And I dive into removing and identifying what I call their leadership limits. So basically the unaddressed or the bypassed mental head trash and emotional blocks that stop them from doing what it is that they're capable of inside of their business. So the Peaceful Ambitious CEO is basically who you are as an entrepreneur when you eliminate these leadership limits, these emotional blocks, and all these head trash pieces. And you can just step into who you are, and from that expression, create the business that is inside of you to create. So that is kind of what bred this whole idea. Like, it came from that whole experience, and it also encompasses a lot of the beliefs that I have to walk my own talk and strive towards the same thing, like my version of the same thing that I help clients do as well. So that's kind of contextually where this is all coming from. And without further ado, let's just dive right into it. Like, before all this leadership limit stuff, what is it that we're actually working towards? What is a peacefully ambitious CEO? So really, it breaks down into three major pieces based on the individual words of that title. So peaceful, ambitious, and CEO. I'm going to be diving into the aspects of each and kind of their sub aspects and sub qualities. And I think as we go through this episode, you get an idea of how they all fit together. Okay. So first things first, peaceful, right? So peaceful in the context of the business owner that actually like wants more and is unapologetic about it, which we will get to afterwards. Peaceful from the context of business owner that is driven by like impact, is a heart-centered entrepreneur. It generally means they're striving for more than just dollars. Like, you're not here because all you want to do is buy a Lambo to impress people you don't really like anyway. You're here because you want more out of yourself, out of your life, out of your own expansion, and then subsequently that's reflected in your business. So peaceful for entrepreneurs that strive towards that, to me, has three qualities, right? They're thriving and fulfilled. They have enthusiastic effort versus grind and work. And they're good at separating drama from data. Okay, so what are those aspects? So thriving and fulfilled just means they're operating out of a personal sense of wholeness versus a personal void. And this is extremely important because so many times what drives entrepreneurs is the exact opposite. The void is some need to prove something, either to themselves, to prove that I am good enough, to prove that I can love myself, to prove that I'm worthy of something, to prove that I deserve something, versus out of a personal sense of wholeness, meaning I am who I am separate from the business, that is one aspect of me, and I as an individual, my worth is not determined by what is in my bank account, it's determined by who I am. And then in one way that's expressed is the business, but there's other aspects to me. Okay. So what this really means is, if you are thriving and fulfilled and living the peaceful ethos of the Peaceful Ambitious CEO, then that means you are motivated, not by the distortions of drive and motivation, which, like I said, is like needing to prove, wanting to be good enough, to accept and love yourself. You're actually motivated and driven by the fact that you already are whole, but it's a really cool thing and a really expansive thing to do this business and create it in the way that I envision it should be created. So that means if you're thriving and fulfilled in your pursuits and the expression of your business, there's a genuine desire to create, And that desire, again, is coming from me, kind of like you're creating art. Like, I want to express this in the form of the business. But the business itself is not tied or does not identify and or define me so that I can feel worthwhile. Because so many times, and I've certainly been guilty of this as well, is you're tying your own sense of worthiness to the worthiness of the business. And like Peter Crone talks about when he talks about addiction, you can never get enough of something that almost works. And that's going to be a recurring theme in this exploration of Peacefully Ambitious CEO, because that void can never be filled by the business. That worthiness void can never be filled by the business. There's no amount of money that is ever enough to actually do that, which means if you're operating from that, then it's hard to take rest, then it's hard to be grateful, then it's hard to have purpose, it's hard to celebrate when good things go well. The lows are extremely low because now they are part of your identity. It's something that's reflective of you. So the first part to thriving and being a fulfilled business leader is really accepting the wholeness that's there, but more importantly, believing that and living that, embodying that, and operating your business from there. So the first big aspect of being a peacefully ambitious CEO. Okay. So second part of peaceful is this idea of enthusiastic effort. That's kind of what drives you. That's what makes you thrive versus working hard and grinding, right? So there's no greater freedom than when you get up and like you love what you do, and that the effort of that comes from that inherent love, like it's intrinsic motivation. Again, that's the purest expression of your peaceful self. And that can drive a lot of the hard work you do actually do versus I'm grinding hard because I should, because I don't want to feel less than, because I want to get into certain circles. I want to look a particular way to certain people, have certain things because they're going to make me whole, right? That's not only sustainable, but it's at the risk of that empty success, right? You don't want to get to the top of the mountain to realize you won a game you didn't want to play to begin with. So this is a big aspect of like this, not discounting hard, like it's not discounting effort, because you like if two people get up at 6 a.m., but one is enthusiastic and passionate about what thing they're going to build, that is way different than the person who's getting up at 6 a.m. to, have this morning routine because somebody said that they should, and then do all the things because somebody said that they should, and, grind and do the things because, they haven't addressed their inner limits about delegation. What, like you get the idea here, but it's effort is required, but grinding is not. Okay. So the peacefully ambitious CEO embodies that peace because they're thriving and fulfilled because they're operating from wholeness, which means their expression of action is also one that's simply an extension of that, which is enthusiastic, joyful effort, which can also be large because whatever your goals are, some require more effort than others, and that's okay because it's coming from this pure, peaceful place. Okay. And the last aspect of peace is separating drama from the data. So what this means is you are not at the whim of your emotions to make decisions and to react. Okay. A big part of the leadership limits that get in the way of entrepreneurs becoming peacefully ambitious CEOs is they are unconsciously operating out of either head trash that gives them a skewed perspective of their own decisions, their own relationship to other people, their own abilities and potential, and then also the emotional blocks that stem from woundings or past trauma that really create an environment where you can't separate the data from the drama that's created by these leadership limits. So when I say data, I don't just mean pure numbers. I mean being able to look at in a business decision and look at it objectively without these emotions coming into play. That means you're going to have a harder time purely like implementing strategy, especially if you're hiring like business coaches, coming up with clarity around the best path forward to truly express your vision, right? Because the other aspects of peaceful, it's like you're living from this place that is very, let's just say, for lack of a better word, clean. So you can see what you want, you own what you want, you're happy about what you want, you're enthusiastic to put into work to get there. So that clarity is going to need some objective path to get there. There's going to be objective things you have to do in the business to make that happen. If you're not bringing the drama, that also means you're not putting the distortions on those decisions, on those objective plans. So you're able to make better decisions and actually move forward in a way that is aligned with who you are. And again, is an expression of who you are. So that in a nutshell encompasses the peaceful aspects of all of this. So now if we move on to the second part of Peacefully Ambitious CEO, which is the ambition. And to me, this is being unapologetic about your desire for more. So I'm a firm believer that the world is only going to improve if good people make as much money as possible. So if you are here identifying with this message, listening to this, thinking about what this is all about, chances are on some level, you're what I would call a heart-set entrepreneur, an impact-driven entrepreneur. Like I said at the beginning, like you're somebody who's here and isn't here because they just want the Lambo to, get the trophy partner. There's a deeper reason, there's a deeper passion to why you are doing what you're doing. And to me, individuals like that need to make as much money as possible so that they can then extend that same kind of soulfulness into using that money for something good, bringing something good into the world, even just beyond your business and the thing that you provide. So being unapologetic about the fact that you want more, I think is a key portion of this, because owning that you are going to do good in the world, you're going to be a good steward of the money that you're going to make, then why not do it? Like, in my opinion, humbleness is this thrown around term that is misguided and distorted in the general way that it's used, because all it really is like this nice sounding excuse to play small or placate the big things that you are doing. Pure humbleness, in my opinion, is a check against the follies of arrogance, which is basically, again, just trying to prove something. So to be humbled in that way is like, oh, this is a check that, okay, I had a disconnect from reality and now I'm back and in tune with reality. Like, to me, that's all that humbleness should actually be. But to own your own magnificence, to own your own uniqueness, to own the gifts that you bring into the world, I don't believe that actually requires humbleness. I think it requires you to actually shine your light as brightly as you can, own your desire for more, own, even if you're going to look at this from a spiritual perspective, own that, the spirit soul part of you came here to expand through a physical experience. You can't expand with less. You can only expand with more. So why not expand with more money? Because it is the scorekeeper in some ways of entrepreneurship. So to me, owning your ambition, owning your desire for more isn't just like accepting it. Like, that's the first step. But it's really making the self-honoring choice. I'm going to own this fully and genuinely like go all in on it, so that the ripple effects of that can, positively impact your family, your friends, your team, your community, all of the things. To me, that's a genuine expression of expansion. And that's a beautiful, beautiful thing, especially because that expansion is going to come from the peaceful aspects, right? Like, if your expansion and your ownership of wanting more is coming from a place that doesn't fuel your insecurity, so it's not distorted, it's not fueling the drama and the data, right? So like, you're separating the drama from data, so you're making good objective decisions that are in ownership of the fact that you want more, and that's a good thing. And you're doing it from this heart set space where you're thriving and actually enjoying yourself and moving towards a purpose. Like, what could possibly be wrong with that? Okay. And if there's parts of you that are like, oh, well, it's going to affect certain people. So like, that's a leadership limit example. Like if this is triggering those pieces, that's a leadership limit that in this instance is causing you to shrink and play smaller. So again, that's the thing. No problem. Go to uplevelmind.com. We can have a conversation about it. But that kind of encompasses the peaceful and the ambitious aspect of peacefully ambitious CEO. And the last piece here is the CEO. So to me, CEO is just a term that reflects leadership. Okay. Up leveling from whatever terminology you liked when you kind of started your business, like whether I'm an entrepreneur, whether I'm a business owner, whether I'm a freelancer, and then I got into a side hustle and now I turned into an actual business. Like, doesn't really matter what term resonates most with you. To me, stepping into a CEO, semantics aside, is up leveling how you show up in your leadership, like going from where you are right now into expanding your capacity for better and more leadership so that you can be the person that creates the next level of your business. To me, that's encapsulated by this idea of a CEO. Okay, so the first aspect of leadership is obviously self-leadership. Like you cannot lead others beyond your capacity to lead yourself. So your capacity to lead yourself is directly related to not just how much you can output, but also how much leaks, like inner leadership leaks, you end up plugging. So what do I mean by leadership leaks? So this is covered in my Peacefully Ambitious CEO podcast, which not only do you have links in the show notes below, but I'll cover it at the end. But I mentioned the leadership limits at the beginning. So leadership limits, like I said, are these unconscious, unaddressed, or oftentimes bypassed emotional blocks and head trash that most entrepreneurs miss on their success path. All of those are like leaks in this bucket of leadership. So all of the things that you're doing, you're investing in yourself, you're actually outputting stuff inside of your business, you're doing things, you're making moves. That's kind of all pouring into how you show up as this leader. Every time you have these leadership limits, like we talked about, playing small, every time you have doubt that actually stops you from moving forward, every time you have these emotions that add more drama to the data, etc., it's like all leaking the efforts, energies, inner resources you have to operate at a higher level. So the CEO aspect, the self-leadership part, starts with like plugging the holes so you have higher capacity to just hold more, and then you can step into like doing more, doing bigger, all of the things. Okay. And of course, then that's going to allow you to walk your own talk, be in integrity with the values that you say you have, which of course is going to then translate into leading your team better, leading your family better, leading amongst your friends and your community. Like all of the things are improved when your self-leadership improves. Okay. So that's really at the core, like that embodied leadership is at the core of the CEO aspect of being a peacefully ambitious CEO. And when you look at that in totality, like that's really the aspiration of what this whole movement is about, what this podcast is going to be about, what all of the kind of ecosystems that I'm building around this is actually going to be about. So if any of this resonated with you, like that this is an aspiration that you have, you resonate with these qualities, you feel like you have them and you can't really express them to the degree that you want, then my invitation to you is go through the Peacefully Ambitious CEO workshop. It dives into various self-assessments, specifically around geared around identifying the leadership limits that I alluded to multiple times, seeing what they are for you, seeing how they actually manifest for you inside of your leadership and inside of your business. And then you can actually walk away with a blueprint on like what you need to do to address them. So that's my invitation to you if you want to dive deeper into this. And for the rest of the episodes, what this podcast is mainly going to focus on is all of the individual leadership limits that I see, whether it's working through things myself or mostly with client coaching, I'm going to bring them into this podcast and like break them down individually so that you can basically reference this whole thing at any time and just be like, hey, I'm struggling with X. I can go here and find resources for it. And it's specific to business owners and entrepreneurs because in my opinion, let's just say imposter syndrome has unique qualities when you're a business owner versus, when you do any other type of work. So it's not better, it's just different. So that's it for now. And as always, subscribe and like, because it helps the algorithm gods do their thing and get this out to more people. So thank you very much. And we'll see you on the next one.